Hey guys, welcome back to Day-Today Chess. Today Qatar Masters Open has concluded with the win of none other than the world champion Magnus Carlsen. And what better way to finish the year than by winning one of the strongest open chess tournaments ever. A great congratulations to the organizers for having put this tournament together. I was lucky enough to play there last year and felt great knowing that I can see live and I'm playing in the same tournament as the former world chess champion Vladimir Kramnik. But this year it was even better than last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I was following it from afar. Of course, the presence of Magnus Carlsen is excellent and some other former world chess champions or World Cup winners. But in the same time, they had a great team of photographers, of media, and commentators. And, when you can organize an event with having as commentator Peter Svidler, I think definitely it has to say that it's a great event. I think Peter Svidler is probably the best commentator out there. I love his style. He's just so amazing, and I really wish one day I can be commenting games as well as he does. I mean, definitely I won't be at his level in chess, but hopefully in the commentating part I will get close to the level that he's at. So enough with the talking. It was a great event and I loved watching it, although I haven't made that many videos about it. But today I'm making the last one and I'm going to give it my best shot to make you guys enjoy this video. And before we start seeing the two games that Magnus Carlsen played against Yangyi for the prestigious trophy of the event, I would like to tell you that in round number 9, Magnus was playing white against Vladimir Kramnik, and Magnus had 6.5 and Vladimir Kramnik had 6 points. And on board number 2, Yangyi, also with 6 points, was playing against Grandmaster Wesley So. So tough events up there, and some people I saw on some websites were complaining the fact that Magnus didn't play for win his last round. But guys, think of it. When you're in pole position, you have half a point ahead of the other two, right? With a draw, you're basically edging out one of the opponents, and then, the other one, in order to catch you, would have to win, and the chances for Yangyi to win his game against Wesley So, I think, in my opinion, were very little. Unfortunately, Wesley So, for some reason, blundered, and instead of, finishing the game in a draw, he ended up losing. So it gave Yangyi the chance to play for the trophy, a match against Magnus Carlsen. But, well, you're going to see what happened. Obviously, since Magnus won the trophy, you know what the result was, but we are going to see it. So for those out there who think that Magnus is not playing for a win every single game, I personally believe most of the games he's really trying to show class against other people, and he's always very creative. So if sometimes he might just try to be safe, I don't think there's something wrong with that, specifically because it's the last round, and it's good to finish the year on a high note. So that's all I had to say. Hopefully I have not offended anybody, and if I did, I apologize, and feel free to write me your comments about this topic with trying to play safe in the last round to ensure your title or first prize or whatever it might be. Just feel free to comment in the description below and let me know what you think about it. Let's start with the game. So Yangyi ended up winning, as I said, and Magnus Carlsen had white in their first game. And I don't want to go over the entire game. I just want to go after move 19. So this was the position after move 19. Magnus just played rook c1. And this is kind of a prophylactic move on the c file, just making sure that black won't capture in d4, because maybe I'll be considering to capture back with the c pawn, and like this my rook is active. So this is basically the idea with rook c1. And here, if you're thinking about plans, what do you have to do? Well, start with the pawn structure, and we see that obviously black has more space on the queen side. White doesn't really have that much space, it seems, but you're going to see Magnus's creativity. But since black has more space on this side of the board, definitely they have to find a way to make some dynamic moves on the queen side. And black had two opportunities that seem quite obvious to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think black had to play c4 here. And if white goes bishop b1 or bishop c2, black can just go b5 and opens up the a file, or opens up the position on the queen side. Or if he didn't like the c4, he could have thought to play b5 immediately, because white cannot capture in b5 and try to win the pawn, because this bishop in b5 is going to be trapped after c4. So white has to be very cautious. So b5 for black would have been a good approach for the position, in my opinion. However, Yangyi in this position went for a5, which surprised me a little bit, because yes, black has this bishop in b7 that's badly placed, but this bishop is also controlling the square e4, so it's kind of stopping white to play e4 at some point. So, you know, you don't really want to trade that bishop just yet. And after this a5, Magnus found the brilliant, one of my favorite moves, g4. And here bishop a6 was a possibility, but it would not have been good, because we just take. And with which piece do you take back? If you take back with the rook, I can play this knight c6. And you've got a little problem. Bishop is attacked. Knight, you cannot move the bishop because the knight is hanging. You cannot take my knight, obviously, because your rook is hanging. So bishop a6 was not even possible. So just think about it. Black played a5, but did not double check that whether this move is going to be possible or not. And unfortunately, it's not. And if after bishop takes a6, black would consider to capture with the queen, well, in that case, we can pretty much do something similar, just capture a knight c6. And black has to play, I think, this knight c8 to make sure they are not losing anything, but probably capture bishop d6, and black would be losing this pawn in c5. So, you know, we have to be very careful when we are making a plan. Just try to make sure, even if it's a bad plan, at least try to make sure that it actually works. And okay, it was a blitz game, so it wasn't. Sometimes we can have things that we're not seeing in a blitz, but okay. Going back to the game, after this g4, Yangyi decided to kind of start looking on the king side, so he played queen d8. Exiting with the queen from the c-file and bringing the queen to the control of this d8 h4 diagonal. This is important because at some point white will get ready to play g5. Okay, so Magnus is not hurrying to push the pawns. He needs to make sure his pieces are well placed. So queen g2. Knight d7, trying to trade the knight. Well, I'm not trading this knight. If you want, you can take here. f4. Of course, capturing here would be kind of, you know, not necessarily something that black would like to do, because he's opening up the f file for white, and white could have start having some pressure on f7. So Yangyi played rook c8. Okay, Magnus brought his rook to e1. This rook wasn't doing anything anymore that much on the c file, so it's time to bring it back into play and getting ready for whenever black is going to capture in d4 to take back with the pawn. And now with this pawn being placed in a5, black has big troubles to play b5 now. So that's why this move was not wisely chosen by Grandmaster Yangyi. Okay, c takes d4, e takes d4, of course. That was the idea. And here Yangyi made a move that seems to me very useless. I don't think I can say very useless. bishop a8. And the thing is, he doesn't seem to want to do anything. Maybe he was thinking rook b8, b5, but how? I mean, it just takes too long of a time to do all of these things. He had to just focus somehow on the king side, maybe play king h8. Prophylactic moves are always welcome. Maybe bishop h4 to keep their bishop active. And why cannot actually play rook e2? Because now there is a little trick, I would say, happening. Takes, and knight e4 here. And white cannot capture twice in e4 because now there's bishop a6 and white loses the exchange. It's still not a bad position for white. It's probably still equal because white will remain with a bishop pair and strong pawn structure, but still, why give away an exchange? So most likely after bishop h4, maybe Magnus would have played rook d1. I'm not 100% sure, or maybe he would have chosen that line. But this seems to be like safer bet for black. Maybe going back, see what you're doing with your rook in d1. But bishop a8 was just a move that seems to be wasting time. And Magnus utilized it immediately. He's pretty much ready. All of his pieces are on the king side. It's time to open up the game. g5. I love this move. Black has to take, otherwise what do? I'm going to take, open up the g file. h5 is a typical idea normally, but here it won't work because of g6. And weakness, mate, weakness, mate will be coming shortly. So h takes g5, f takes g5, and here Yangyi captured in e5. What to do? I mean, bishop takes g5 would have allowed knight takes d7, and black is going to be losing a piece. If black had played knight e4 in this position, we can simply take. And again, we have material advantage. So Yangyi captured in e5. Trying to trade pieces is always good when your opponent is attacking you, specifically active pieces of the opponent. Knight c4. Okay, are we trading? No, we are in attack. We are not trading pieces. Knight f3. Going with the knight towards the attack. So at some point we might play g6, and maybe this knight could come to g5. It really depends how black would react. And here Yangyi took the bishop in e5. And it was a wise choice because that bishop is a good attacking piece. But unfortunately it doesn't help black very much because after rook takes e5, this pawn is always going to be a problem. I'm threatening some g6, and then what are you doing about this pawn? So Yangyi played bishop d6, and probably Magnus could have tried to bring his queen and not care about the exchange, maybe queen g4, h5, going for the mate, but he decided to make sure to keep his pieces safe. Why give up material? I'm still attacking. This bishop is dead in a8. I basically have a piece up. g6. Okay, still queen g4. Now I have prepared for you all of these squares to show you that black has these two weaknesses. As he played g6, he weakened those two squares. And the fact that the pawn is in g6, it doesn't necessarily make this pawn less vulnerable. There will always be sacrifices either in g6 or e6, and the other pawn is going to fall. And that's something that happened later in the game. Here Magnus quietly went h4, h5. Maybe there were some other ways of winning, but I think this is humanly the most natural way to go. And here Yangyi played rook h8. Rook c7 seems to have been a more defensive type of approach to make sure the 7th rank is protected, but h5 would have followed, and then if you take, I'm not going to take. I'm going to play maybe queen h4, then knight e5, and I'll take this pawn later on. Why don't I take immediately? Because maybe I'm giving some counterplay to black. but it isn't that much, so, you know, either one of those two moves would be possible. But Yangyi played rook h8, and here please be sure to pause the video and find this amazing move that Magnus found, and it's probably a position that we might encounter in some tactical books that are going to be written later on. So the move is rook takes e6, f takes e6, queen takes e6, mate in g6. This bishop is a hanging bishop. Poor black has no way to protect g6 besides queen e8 and giving away the bishop. If you don't play that move, I will take in g6, knight e5 and mate. So queen e8, Magnus took, rook c6 check. I'm okay to enter in an endgame because, like I said earlier, this bishop in a8 is totally out of play. The rook gets active. This pawn is going to fall. The rook is being attacked. So takes. He didn't even take the rook in c6. He got active. He played rook a7 first. Rook c8 only move. Now he took in g6. Think you can escape with the bishop? Okay, you can escape. I don't care that much. Check and knight g6 check rook. And Yangyi resigned. So this was, I think, a brilliant win by Magnus on his way to winning the title of the Qatar Masters Open. And let's go to the next game that he played. And that game was surprisingly finished in a nice way. I'm going to go from the beginning, you know. I wanted to just go from a certain point, but let's just go from the beginning to see this nice Nimzovich that Magnus played. Knight f3, b6, e3, bishop b7. Okay, this seems to be like a typical Nimzovich, right? Bishop d3, castle, and c5. Of course, there's a d5 line as well, but in general, when we put the bishop in b7, we really want the bishop to remain open to have control over e4, so the most natural approach for black is to actually play c5 and counterattack the center that way to keep the bishop open. And here, Yangyi played knight a4. And the idea of this move is to kind of utilize the fact that the bishop is kind of trapped for the moment in b4. So I castled, I exited the pin, and now I can move the knight, threatening a3, you go to a5, and then you will be losing the pawn in c5. So in this position, Magnus kind of has to do something about the bishop. So he took, and rook e8. The idea of rook e8 is to be able to retreat the bishop in case it's attacked, to retreat it directly in f8. And then this bishop could be put fianchetto, g6, and bishop g7. a3 was played, bishop f8. Typical. This is a very typical idea of the Nimzo Indian. Okay, and here Yangyi played bishop f4, which is not the most played move in this position. b4 is more typical because White is trying to utilize the fact that he has two pawns already in the center and just getting more space on the queen side. And black normally reacts a5 and b5. And after d6, this bishop normally goes to b2. And actually, there was a game that was played between Bruzon and Magnus in 2012 in Mexico City. And the position seemed to be quite alright for White. Now, I don't know if Yangyi was prepared or not to play this bishop f4, but this was, you know, an alright continuation as well. And here, Magnus actually made a novelty. He captured in f3. I have not found any games with this move. In fact, here black normally reacts knight c6, and black had really good results in this position after knight c6, because the idea is bringing the knight to e7 and then bringing it to g6, rook c8, trying to get this bishop if you're not paying attention. Some knight h5 coming towards f4. things like this. So not pushing anything around the center, making sure the bishop remains open, and this is a bishop that normally you want to keep because black can have some ideas on the diagonal, but Magnus just gave it away. At the beginning I thought this is a little bit strange, but it makes some sense, and you're going to see in a second. It kind of attracts the queen away from protecting this knight in a4. And you're going to see in a second why that thing is important. I developed the knight d5. Pawn took, c took, and here knight e5. And very surprisingly, I don't know what happened. Yangyi blundered. He played queen to d1. Black is forced here to capture the knight. Rook takes, and maybe rook c1. And in this position, white is okay. I mean, it's tough for white to play for a win here, because Yangyi had to try to win to make sure he still had some chances to win the trophy. But okay, what to do? If you cannot win, at least you make a draw. But he played queen d1, which is a shocking blunder. And in two moves from in 2 moves from here, he resigned. Please be sure to pause the video and find the simple continuation of Magnus's. He played knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and here rook e4. And Yangyi is losing one of these pieces. So this was a very, very short game, a miniature game. I really hope you enjoyed my video, and you're going to stay tuned like usually for more games tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.